Comedian Dave Chappelle hosted Saturday Night Live this past weekend for the third time. In a report by Page Six, apparently not everyone was excited to have him back on set. Writers of the show reportedly wanted to boycott or have boycotted Chappelle's gig to protest comments made by him in 2021 that critics said were homophobic and transphobic. Let's listen.
Canceled J.K. Rowling, my God. But effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as they started calling her a TERF.
TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist.
A representative for Chappelle told Page Six that a meeting last Tuesday with writers showed no signs of a potential boycott and that writers in the room showed apparent excitement for the veteran comedian's appearance. During his set on Saturday, Chappelle, of course, did not shy away from controversy, starting his monologue with comments about Kanye West. Let's watch.
Before I start tonight, I just wanted to read a brief statement that I prepared. I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms. And I stand with my friends in the Jewish community. And that, Kanye, is how you buy yourself some time.
So he went on to tell a number of jokes that some people are saying were anti-Semitic and they shouldn't have done it. That joking about the amount of Jewish control in the media. He says some joke about how it's not offensive to say that you've got a bunch of Italians together running things, they're a mob, but you can't say the same for Jewish people. Look, I don't know, what is the difference between Chappelle making these jokes, between what Chappelle says and what Kanye says? I'd say it's weird and off-putting when Kanye does it, and Chappelle, as a professional comedian, has just a different cadence when he does it, and it's okay. But is that a totally hypocritical difference of opinion there?
Well, one is a world-renowned comedian, and the other one is just an off-kilter guy who says things that he seemingly believes wholeheartedly that are extremely problematic. I think that, in that special, which I've now watched 5 times, so thank y'all for the extra clips.
Do you like Chappelle?
I love Chappelle. He leaves no stone unturned, and he really does social commentary well. And I think he does it with a comedic spin, and that was what he was trying to do. Illuminate some things that obviously were in the media, Kanye's issues, then Kyrie's issues that apparently were spawned off of Kanye's issues and the reaction to it, but also that he didn't necessarily believe that, I think what came off for me was he didn't necessarily believe that Kanye was personally trying to attack Jewish people. And that, I think, is something that many people within my community honestly believe, that he said something, maybe he crossed a line, but he's not out here trying to actively advocate for harm to Jewish people.
Yeah, that's really well put. I watched the cold open with Chappelle, I think 5 times yesterday, because every time I watched it, I had a different reaction. Of course, Jewish people on Twitter were debating back and forth whether the jokes were anti-Semitic.
Yeah, the Anti-Defamation League was quite upset.
The Anti-Defamation League was upset about it. I would say the difference between what Chappelle was doing and what Kanye did is that Chappelle was telling jokes, right? So, you're allowed to tell offensive jokes. I would say the first joke he told, the one we just saw, was very funny. I mean, that's a great joke because, as a Jewish person, you watch that and it's hilarious because it's he's making fun of the hesitancy with which you approach this topic, even as a comedian. Were there jokes later that I felt were, made me uncomfortable? They did, but I mean, obviously that is his prerogative as a comedian. It's to take on topics that make people uncomfortable. But I went back and forth between being these are hilarious jokes. I'm included in this. He's picturing people like me in this, and then being no, I'm the butt of the joke, and it's, I have to extend the grace that to let him make these jokes because, we believe in free speech, we believe in comedy, we believe that people should be able to break boundaries, but did he go too far? I'm not sure. I just kept going back and forth on it, but I did laugh.
There's something to how you do it at the end of the day, and Chappelle is effective because he does it well, and Kanye did it in a way that made us all go,
I mean, he also talked about things that we knew were technically true. He says, okay, well, I've been to Hollywood. There are a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood. I've also been to Ferguson. It's a lot of black people in Ferguson. But do they run anything? I think that he's playing on the social ideology about what many people believe Hollywood is. and that, you know, it's got crazy things in and of itself that have absolutely nothing to do with Jewish people. It's just Hollywood. People in Hollywood are weird. But more so trying to break up the ice, because this is a very touchy subject, and I think he fully recognizes that, but he was able to bring light to it. The Anti-Defamation League was live tweeting the whole time.
Yeah, I'm going to read their statement. So Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League denounced Chappelle's monologue, tweeting, "We shouldn't expect Dave Chappelle to serve as society's moral compass, but disturbing to see NBC, SNL not just normalize but popularize anti-Semitism. Why are Jewish sensitivities denied or diminished at almost every turn? Why does our trauma trigger applause?" That's a pretty strong statement. And then obviously, given the initial boycotting concerns, Chappelle's gotten himself in trouble so many times. Lately, it's been for being perceived to be hostile to the transgender community or making jokes at the transgender community's expense. I don't know. That was a lot of anger there from the ADL.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Chappelle didn't deliver a TED Talk on the topic of Jews in Hollywood. He told jokes about them. You're supposed to laugh at jokes, and especially if they're funny, and they were funny jokes. I will say, I do think, based on watching this, based on the other jokes he's told about Jews, I do think that Chappelle maybe feels a little bit like Kanye, that it's not just that there's a lot of Jews, but that they do have a kind of control that, you know, makes it scarier to talk about them being there than other people. And, you know, I don't like that he believes that, but it's irrelevant, like what I think he thinks in his heart of hearts. What's relevant is he delivered a set of jokes. Some were really funny, some were just kind of funny, but, you know, he took on a difficult topic in the best Chappelle way possible, which is to take on a very sensitive topic in a way that made people laugh. And I think, you know,
Chappelle also tells a lot of jokes about, like, poor white people and their drug addictions and their race. Like, he mocks white people all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not offended. No one is offended. Like, you don't talk about being offended.
I actually do get offended when he makes jokes about people like that. But again, it's his I'm offended by it, and it's his prerogative, and he should talk about whatever he wants.
I think one of the highlighting great things about him is that he speaks from an experiential experience.
Yeah.
He's talking about, hey, I live in Ohio. This is a segment of people that are around me in Ohio. I'm going to talk about this bar, this restaurant I went to, and the type of people I met. If you've ever visited or hung out in that particular part of Ohio and surrounding suburbs, you've seen many of the people who he's talked about. I lobbied there. It's very real. But he doesn't do it in a, I think, hateful way.
Yeah,
and I think that's the takeaway,
Yeah.
that he's not trying to diminish these people. He is not trying to spread hate. He is literally out here showcasing to a world that doesn't necessarily see these things, that this is what's going on, and actually trying to illuminate some of our societal issues.
Well, also, I think when you do, as he does, when you make fun of white people and black people and Jewish people and trans people from the position of being a professional
it's the
comedian,
Rainbow Push Coalition.
That way, right? It's hard to say that he has a specific malice against one group when he kind of jokes about who is in the headlines, and it's all over the place. I mean, he's mocked his own community a lot. Chappelle's show was really funny. It took on a lot of black figures and black culture, etc. So he's done this to
no one is safe, and everybody could take an L.
Which is the way, right? Exactly, which is the way comedy is supposed to be.
I will just make one more point, which is that I think that he is such an important voice for showing something that bothers me a lot, which is how the intersectional movement has stolen glory from the black struggle and then abandons the black community. You know, by saying to support Black Lives Matter means to support, the trans agenda, however far it goes. And like that bothers me a lot. And I think he has been a very strong voice for pointing that out.
It also bothers a lot of Black Lives Matter activists who actually are at the city and local level. That's more of a national Black Lives Matter thing than it is if you talk to Black Lives Matter activists in Chicago and Memphis and various places across the South. That's not necessarily the mantle that they're going to take. Not that they're anti-trans, it's just when they're dealing with daily life, being able to afford rent, being able to get good jobs, being able to survive is a lot more of the context.
I think all that money went to buying the national organization a TikTok hype house, if I recall. That's what we've learned from the reporting. Oh, goodness. All right, we'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.